Meet Yamori Bakuto, the cultivation master who reached the absolute peak, the man who single-handedly saved an entire continent from eternal darkness. Now he stands alone, surrounded by nothing but ash and victory flames. Everything went according to plan, at least that's what he thinks. But his so-called allies? They've got something else brewing in the shadows. The moment he realizes it, betrayal cuts deeper than any blade ever could. As his body hits the ground, one question tears from his throat. Why would they do this? His final breath carries a promise that shakes the heavens themselves. Every single traitor will be dragged screaming into the depths of hell. But death doesn't come. Instead, someone's calling his name from somewhere far away. His eyes snap open to find a worried woman hovering over him, faces he's never seen before closing in. Yamori's lying in a courtyard he doesn't recognize, surrounded by complete strangers staring down at him. Is this what the afterlife looks like? Because it's not what he expected. Apparently hell comes with high school drama. Some punk starts mocking him for being a disowned loser. The crowd's already moving on to someone more interesting. A cocky kid named Kataba steps up, looking way too confident about whatever test is coming. The second they announce the test, something breaks open in his mind like a dam bursting. The truth hits him hard. He's been shoved into another Yamori Bakuto's body. This version, an outcast from a powerful bloodline, thrown away like garbage. After his parents died, the family disowned him and left him to rot alone. This world doesn't even know cultivation exists. They're completely clueless. Yet spiritual energy still flows here, weak but unmistakable. The Reiki in this place is pathetically thin, barely a whisper of what it should be. He pulls that energy inward anyway, feeling familiar power stir back to life in his core. His eyes flash with recognition. The awakening has begun. Every blockage in this broken body just cleared in one sweep. The raw surge of power literally reshapes his physical form from the inside out. Once he climbs back to his former strength, he's returning to his world to paint it red with revenge. But right now, he's starting from zero again. Might as well use this test to see what this body can actually do. He walks straight up to the instructors. They're asking if he's feeling okay, concern written all over their faces. Yamori looks them dead in the eye and announces he's running the 100-meter sprint. His old bullies lose it, cackling about how he's nothing compared to the school's golden boy athlete. Sure, he's only at the first stage of cultivation right now, but even that first stage makes his body superhuman compared to these ordinary kids. The bullies are practically drooling with excitement. He's racing against Hayashi, the unbeatable star. Yamori doesn't even flinch. He just takes his position at the starting line like he owns it. Both runners crouch low, muscles coiled, waiting for that starting signal. Hayashi's eyes are burning with pure competitive fire, locked straight ahead. The pistol cracks through the air and the race explodes into motion. Hayashi launches off the blocks like his life depends on it, already pulling ahead. His former tormentors are dying laughing, thinking he froze up from fear. What they don't realize, he just gave them a 3-second head start on purpose. Then he moves. 1 second he's still, the next he's pure speed. The bullies' laughter dies in their throats, jaws hanging open. A girl on the sidelines looks like she's seeing a ghost. His body cuts through the air at speeds that shouldn't be physically possible. This is what happens when a true cultivator decides to move. Nobody can find words. The crowd's gone completely silent. The distance between them might as well be different dimensions. Yamori crosses the finish line and casually asks if they counted his 6-second handicap. The instructor's voice shakes as he reads the time. New school record, shattered. Behind him, his rival hits the ground like his soul just left his body. Yamori knows the truth, though. He's nowhere near his former glory yet. This is just the first step on a very long climb back to the top. He makes a silent vow. He'll reach that summit again no matter what it takes. Time to remember who he really was. Yamori Bakuto, the legend himself. The master who left countless so-called experts in the dust within just 50 years. At age 65, he stood alone as the continent's most powerful cultivator, untouchable. He pushed back the Demon King's entire army, saving the world from total annihilation, and those ungrateful bastards rewarded him with a knife in the back. He remembers those days facing demon wolves, a world where every breath was a battle. To reclaim his power, he needs special cultivation elixirs. There's just one tiny problem with that plan. The ingredients cost a fortune and this body's bank account is pathetically empty. Fine, he'll just sell some talismans, easy money for someone with his knowledge. Except when he checks his balance, it's somehow even worse than he thought. Turns out revenge requires startup capital. Who knew? His brilliant financial strategy is about to face an unexpected interruption. The school bullies tracked him down, and they don't look happy about earlier. Their leader swaggers forward with a sneer, demanding his protection money early this month. Memories flood back. This body's been their personal ATM for months. Just last week, they beat the original owner bloody and took everything he had. The leader notices something's different about his attitude. He snaps his fingers at a lackey to teach him a lesson. The guy throws a punch, already tasting victory. Yamori slides past the attack like it's moving in slow motion, barely worth his attention. His counterstrike lands once. Just once. That's all it takes. To someone who mastered cultivation, even a boxing captain is just another fragile human. The rest of the gang freezes, watching their friend crumple like paper. Another one charges in. He meets them with a casual kick that sends them airborne. The remaining thugs stare in pure shock, questioning if this is even the same person they used to push around. Yamori grins at them, voice dripping with mockery. What's wrong? Feeling scared now? Fear and rage twist their faces as they rush him all at once, desperation taking over. He catches both their fists mid-swing with effortless precision, like snatching flies from the air. Their combined attack stopped cold without him even breathing hard. One simple twist of his wrists and they're on their knees, crying out in agony. He leans in close, making sure they understand exactly how it feels to be powerless. Their tough guy act crumbles instantly, replaced by pathetic begging for mercy. The leader's on the floor now, literally trembling as he begs for forgiveness. But the noise just attracted someone new. Perfect timing, really. A blonde student clenches his fist, anger radiating off him in waves. He charges forward with a war cry that echoes down the hallway. Yamori doesn't dodge. He meets the attack head-on with brutal efficiency. The blonde flies backward, slamming into the lockers with a metallic crash. Yeah, he really should have minded his own business on this one. Yamori stands over them all, voice calm and cold with a simple warning. To them, he's transformed into something monstrous. They scramble backward, pressing themselves into the corner, begging him to stay away. But Yamori's got one simple demand first. Return everything you stole. The bullies exchange confused glances. What's he talking about? His gaze turns ice cold as he reminds them about the debt they owe. The leader's fake confidence shatters like glass hitting concrete. He practically trips over himself, returning every stolen cent, hands shaking. As Yamori walks away, he knows his secret's safe. Fear's a powerful motivator. This school? It's just a pit stop on his journey back to power. Shaking down bullies for seed money? Honestly, not a bad strategy when you think about it. Now he can finally start crafting the tools he needs for his revenge. Talismans, the bread and butter for any cultivator starting their climb back to the top. He mixes rare minerals with spiritual herbs, following an ancient recipe burned into his memory. Spiritual energy flows from his core into the materials, binding them together. This process, he could do it blindfolded at this point. One focused burst of power later, a complete set of deadly talismans materializes before him. He collects his freshly crafted work, each piece humming with contained energy. These will fetch a serious price, at least they should. Now he just needs a training spot and more raw materials to work with. 3 weeks crawl by and his brilliant business plan has completely stalled out. Turns out modern society has regulations against mysterious street vendors selling magical items. But someone's been watching his failed sales pitch with genuine interest. A faint, pained whimper cuts through the city noise around him. The sound leads him to a small puppy collapsed on the sidewalk, bleeding and barely breathing. Yamori crouches down, examining the creature's injuries with a calculating eye. This could work. Perfect opportunity to field test his new merchandise. He presses one healing talisman against the dog's matted fur. The transformation is instant. The puppy springs back to life, wounds vanishing like they never existed. Yamori nods with satisfaction as his first test subject sits up, perfectly healthy. But the dog suddenly bares its teeth, growling at someone approaching from behind. Some guy shows up talking about how it's just a stray, not worth the trouble. His female companion looks ready to explode at him. She's insisting they need to rush it to a vet immediately. Her argument dies mid-sentence when something catches her eye. She spots Yamori holding the puppy, which is now bouncing around like nothing happened. She rushes over, demanding answers about how he healed it so fast. She swears the thing was dying seconds ago. Yamori sees his opening and asks casually if they're heading to the hospital. This could be exactly the marketing breakthrough his struggling business desperately needs. He holds up one of his talismans, revealing his secret weapon. She examines it closer, recognizing it as just a basic protective charm. Her skepticism is written all over her face. Her companion immediately calls him out as a fraud, refusing to believe any of it. The guy accuses him of staging the whole thing for a quick scam, but she ignores him completely. Her next question catches Yamori off guard. Can these work on someone in a coma? Specifically, could they help someone with severe brain damage? Her voice carries a desperate edge. Yamori explains that brain injuries require a specialized talisman. Lucky for her, he's got one right here in his collection. Her companion loses it, practically screaming at her not to trust this obvious con artist. Yamori simply hands over the talisman with detailed instructions. Then he mentions the price, and it's not cheap. The woman, Shizuru, doesn't even blink. She offers 1,000,000 yen for everything he's got. Her friend snaps, lunging forward to physically drag her away from this scammer, but his hand freezes mid-grab, caught in an iron grip. Yamori holds him in place effortlessly, warning him not to interfere with business transactions. His eyes flash with an otherworldly glow that the man's brain can't process. One casual push and the guy's airborne, hitting the ground hard. Money changes hands. Deal sealed. He even tosses in a few bonus talismans for protection and offensive capabilities. With a dark smile, he hopes she'll never actually need to use those last ones. Shizuru stares at him with a mixture of wonder and desperate gratitude in her eyes. As he starts walking away, she calls out asking for his name at least. He leaves her with nothing but his name and a new four-legged companion trotting beside him. Her friend immediately starts ranting about how she just got scammed by a professional con artist. But Shizuru's clutching that talisman like her life depends on it, mind already made up, to gamble everything on even the smallest chance of bringing her mother back. Meanwhile, Yamori's already 3 steps ahead, planning his next moves. These funds finally let him purchase the cultivation herbs he's been hunting for. His new furry companion seems determined to stick with him through whatever comes next. But as darkness falls, his senses pick up something powerful radiating nearby. The energy signature is coming from inside a massive mansion that looks deceptively normal. He spots the source through a window, a rare spiritual herb, practically glowing with concentrated power. Inside that mansion, someone's wrapping bandages around a fresh injury. Back at the hospital, Shizuru's companion is nursing both his bruised hand and his wounded pride. He swears under his breath that their next encounter will end very differently, but his bitter complaints get cut short by an intimidating older man entering the room. The man's absolutely furious that Shizuru has embarrassed their entire family. He's accusing her of falling for the oldest con artist trick in the book. Even the hospital staff are whispering behind her back about how gullible she is, but Shizuru blocks out every single voice, focused on one thing only. He holds the talisman tight, treating it like her last lifeline. Her guardian's composure finally cracks under the pressure. He demands to know if she actually believes in this supernatural garbage. Shizuru fires back hard, questioning what he's ever actually done to help her mother. She accuses him of stalling on purpose, letting her mother waste away in that bed. Her words land like physical blows, leaving the older man visibly shaken. He throws out the accusation he's been dreading. He's just waiting for her mother to die so he can inherit everything. His control snaps and his hand rises to strike her across the face, but he catches himself at the last second, fury and restraint warring across his features. His hand drops with a frustrated exhale that says more than words could. All he can do is comment bitterly on how rebellious she's become lately. He turns his back on her and calls for a nurse, ready to end this circus. Shizuru panics, clutching the talisman desperately as she begs him to stop, but she refuses to abandon her mother. Not now, not ever. He activates the talisman and brilliant light explodes through the entire room. A weak voice calls her name and her head snaps up in shock. Guardian spins around, completely frozen by what he's hearing. The woman in the hospital bed has her eyes open, gaze unfocused but unmistakably alive. Turns out that shady street vendor knew exactly what he was selling. The man's rage transforms instantly into pure, overwhelming joy. The hospital staff can barely process what they're witnessing right now. They flood into the room, ready to run every test imaginable. The doctor's diagnosis comes back clear. With proper rehabilitation, she'll recover completely. Shizuru holds up the still glowing talisman, giving full credit to this simple piece of paper. She explains matter-of-factly that this charm just accomplished what modern medicine couldn't. The medical professionals and her guardian can only stare in absolute stunned silence. The doctor's calling it a genuine miracle, already shouting orders to contact the medical academy immediately. Her companion's face goes pale as the terrifying truth about Yamori's real power finally hits him. Shizuru and her mother collapse into each other's arms, tears flowing freely after months of waiting. She makes a silent vow to repay the mysterious man who gave her this miracle. Meanwhile, Yamori's used his new fortune to secure actual living space. He declares this the first real step on his journey back home. And those traitors who stabbed him in the back, their debt will be paid in full. To tear open a path back to his original world, he needs to climb all the way to the 11th stage. He promises his betrayers that their reckoning is already counting down. But as he settles into his new place, a critical problem reveals itself. This world's spiritual energy is draining away at an alarming rate. His training will stall completely without a concentrated power source to draw from. Something like a mythical spiritual spring or an incredibly rare material could work. And somehow, impossibly, a rare silver heartgrass is growing right there in his apartment. This spiritual plant is the core ingredient needed for refinement elixirs. With this, he can craft pills powerful enough to push him into the second cultivation stage. Time's not on his side here. He needs to start the refinement process immediately. But his cultivation plans hit another brick wall. His wallet's empty again. The ingredients for his next breakthrough elixir cost way more than he's got. His low-key street stall just attracted the absolute worst kind of attention. He's felt their eyes burning into him for days now. A gang of thugs has been shadowing his every move for 3 days straight. Today, he decides it's time to stop running and see what they actually want from him. But his planned confrontation gets derailed by a voice he recognizes from school. A classmate questions why he's been skipping classes completely lately. She assumes he's struggling financially after getting disowned by his family. He remembers her now, the only person who ever showed the original Yamori any genuine kindness. She's even offering to loan him money so he can come back to school. Yamori politely turns her down, explaining he's got more pressing business to handle. Something about him feels off to her. She can't shake the nagging feeling that he's in serious trouble. Meanwhile, he's mapped out all 10 of them perfectly. They're positioned exactly where he wants them. His eyes flash with anticipation. Time to end this little game quickly. They take the bait hard, shouting threats as they chase him into the narrow streets. He leads them to a dead end and turns around, finally ready to face them head on. The thugs grin like they've won, declaring there's nowhere left for him to run. Yamori just smirks and tells them to come at him all at once. Save everyone some time. Entire gang closes in from every angle, weapons ready. Their leader actually looks impressed that this kid isn't showing any fear. Yamori cuts straight to the point. Who sent them? The thug leader reveals he's pissed off someone from a very powerful family. He mocks Yamori for his past connection to the Amitani family heiress. The name triggers buried memories from this body's previous life. The original Yamori was engaged to her before the family threw him away like garbage. Fine. Yamori decides he'll just beat the information out of them the old-fashioned way. But his concerned classmate followed him here, horror spreading across her face at the scene. He knows his body is fragile. There's no way he can survive against armed thugs. Panic takes over and she quickly dials emergency services for backup. But her frantic call doesn't go unnoticed by the gang. A massive figure grabs her from behind, eyes glowing with dangerous intent. He struggles against his iron grip as more thugs emerge from the shadows around them. Looks like their boss decided to make a personal appearance after all. He takes her hostage, transforming this whole confrontation into something much worse. Yamori recognizes her, confusion mixing with irritation. Why did she follow him into this? The boss grins, using the terrified girl as his leverage now. She screams at Yamori to run, warning him they're all carrying weapons. She tries dropping her family's influential name to intimidate them into backing off, but the thugs laugh it off like it's the funniest joke they've heard all day. The leader sneers confidently. Dead people can't identify anyone, can they? He pulls out a blade, making his intentions crystal clear. He blames her for being stupid enough to interfere in business that wasn't hers. Before the blade can fall, Yamori closes the distance in a fraction of a second. His hand intercepts the attack with perfect timing, stopping it cold. His eyes glow with raw power as he admits he was hoping to keep this quiet. But that plan just went completely out the window, didn't it? He states clearly that giving up was never part of his strategy. One strike later and the thug's airborne, slamming hard into the concrete wall. His classmate stares in absolute disbelief. This can't be the same person. The remaining gang members freeze up, terror replacing their earlier confidence. Yamori asks one more time with deadly calm. Who sent you? Somewhere across the city, a radio crackles with an urgent gang activity report. Man in an unmarked car listens intently, alarm spreading across his features. The report confirms the gang is targeting a high school boy with a female hostage. He floors it immediately, calling for backup while keeping certain higher-ups out of the loop. It warns his team these aren't street punks. They're trained killers. The officer in the speeding car frantically calls for a status update, but the voice crackling back has some genuinely surprising news. The situation has changed dramatically in the last few minutes. Because Yamori just took down every single one of them without breaking a sweat. He's gripping the defeated gang leader by the collar, demanding straight answers. The man can't process this. This isn't the weak kid he was paid to eliminate. Yamori presses harder. Was it the Yamitani family or his own blood relatives, the Yamori clan? He gives the thug 3 seconds to start talking. Clock's ticking. Gang leader panics, trying desperately to stammer out something useful, but their interrogation gets interrupted by arriving police sirens. An officer warns Yamori to stop now before he crosses a line he can't come back from. Yamori glances back, noting how conveniently timed the police arrival is. He briefly considers forcing his way through them too, but he's already made his point clear enough for one night. With a final shove, he releases the gang leader from his grip. The thug gasps desperately for air, relieved he's still breathing. Yamori knows picking a fight with the authorities isn't a battle he can win yet. The lead officer breathes a sigh of relief, amazed at the scene before him. He can't wrap his head around how one high school kid demolished an entire gang alone. He introduces himself as Kyo Haruki from the Nemi City Police Department. His classmate waves nervously, introducing herself too. The officers explain they already got the full story. Yamori realizes government surveillance cameras caught everything that went down. They assure him the questioning will be straightforward, nothing to worry about. Their friendly conversation gets cut short by heavy footsteps approaching. A new figure arrives, criticizing them for going too easy on a criminal. The police chief, Onaga Rizo, has arrived personally, and he's here to arrest Yamori. He shoves an arrest warrant directly in Yamori's face, wearing a smug grin. His classmate immediately explodes in protest, shouting that they were the victims here. But the chief's cold stare shows zero interest in actual facts. He twists the entire narrative, claiming Yamori attacked them first. Officer Kyo grabs the chief by his collar, demanding to know why he's lying through his teeth. but the chief's eyes flash with disturbing purple light as he denies everything. He reminds Kyo of rank structure, threatening to destroy his entire career. Kyo stares in disbelief at the blatant corruption happening right in front of him. His partner has to physically restrain him before he does something career-ending. Yamori watches this pathetic display unfold with complete indifference. Someone powerful is clearly pulling strings behind the scenes to frame him for this. The chief mocks his calm attitude, finding his composure oddly entertaining. But Yamori sees this as an opportunity to trace things back to the source. Yamori casually points out the chief's obvious mistake just now. The man realizes too late he slipped up as Yamori calls him out as a puppet. He dares the corrupt chief to finish his master's dirty work personally. Flustered, the officer denies everything and barks orders to his subordinates. Yamori gets led away in handcuffs while his classmate watches helplessly from the side, but he managed to pocket a little souvenir from their conversation. The chief's face goes pale, realizing he's been played. Yamori leaves him with a dark promise about their inevitable next meeting. The corrupt officer can only seethe silently, vowing to remember this humiliation. Inside a maximum security prison cell, an intimidating figure sits in perfect meditation. A man in an expensive suit confirms the client's request is refreshingly simple. The target needs to be eliminated. No questions asked, no traces left behind. Yamori gets escorted through the station, taking in every detail of his new environment. They lead him deeper into darkness where two shadowy figures are waiting for him. He breaks the silence calmly, asking if they're planning to ambush him here. His eyes gleam with interest. This setup is actually kind of entertaining. He looks past the obvious muscle, locking onto the real threat in the room. Man explains his personal rule about never touching innocent civilians. But people like Yamori here, they're just too pathetically weak to qualify for that protection. He introduces himself as Funaki Zensei, the professional hired to end Yamori's life tonight. Yamori scoffs, dismissing him as just another puppet dancing on strings. But something's off. He can feel unusual energy radiating from this opponent. That familiar signature of spiritual power. This guy's no ordinary hitman. Yamori shifts into combat stance as the assassin begins powering up. The man launches forward with a promise to send him to the afterlife permanently. He soars through the air, ready to deliver what should be a fatal strike. The hitman's confidence shatters into complete disbelief in an instant, because Yamori just caught his full power attack with one hand. Effortlessly, he corrects the assassin's mistake about who's weak here. It's Funaki himself. The crushing blow lands before the man can react. With a manic grin splitting his face, Funaki prepares his counterattack. He hurls Yamori across the entire cell with tremendous force, but our protagonist lands gracefully on his feet, completely unharmed by the impact. Funaki admits through gritted teeth that he underestimated him. That mistake ends now. Yamori stands ready, his own spiritual power flaring to life in response. He channels every ounce of it into a single devastating punch. The hitman goes flying backward, slamming into the far wall. Funaki spits blood, completely shocked that anyone possesses this level of raw power. Yamori stands over him, clearly victorious in their first real exchange. But with a furious roar, the assassin launches himself into a desperate counterattack. Yamori dodges the wild blow that literally shatters the air molecules around him. He touches down gracefully, watching dust and debris settle around them. Funaki can only glare upward, his pride shattered but his fighting spirit still burning. Funaki roars in absolute fury, refusing to accept he's outmatched here. But Yamori meets that raw rage with a calculating, ice-cold stare. He slips under the attack and delivers a brutal counter straight to the gut. The assassin goes tumbling across the concrete floor yet again. Funaki struggles back to his feet, seriously questioning his career choices right now. But Yamori's aura explodes outward, a clear final warning. He unleashes another punch, even faster than before. The blow lands with enough raw force to crack the concrete foundation beneath them both. Yamori grabs his defeated opponent by the collar, demanding to know who hired him, and then with one final concentrated surge of spiritual power, he ends the entire fight in a blinding flash of purple light. Across the city, a high-ranking official receives a panicked call. He can't believe the reports about the Yamori family's complete failure. He assures his nervous contact that this problem will be handled immediately. The voice on the other end promises him a significant promotion for his cooperation. Chief Hashimoto hangs on every single word, his naked ambition practically glowing. Back in the cell, Yamori calmly surveys the aftermath of their battle. Funaki admits defeat. Yamori's beyond anything ordinary humans can handle. Yamori's interest peaks. He asks directly if there are others like them in this world. Funaki begins telling a story about an old monk he encountered years ago, a master who could split a massive tree trunk with just one hand strike. Dang, that monk gave him a bottle of what he called divine water. Funaki drank diluted versions over many years. The process slowly transformed his body into something that transcends human limits. Yamori connects the dots instantly. That water was concentrated spiritual essence. He points out that such springs only form where spiritual energy is densest, which raises an obvious question. Why take orders from ordinary men? Yeah, the answer, like so many tragic stories, comes down to money for his dying child. But the divine water had absolutely zero effect on his son's terminal illness. He's desperate for cash to find an actual cure that might work. Yamori states calmly that he might actually be able to help with that. The hardened hitman can only stare in complete disbelief at the offer. Yamori explains that raw spiritual essence is dangerously toxic for ordinary people, but there are specific methods to safely enhance its healing properties without killing the patient. Funaki scoffs at the ridiculous idea that a simple paper charm could do anything, until Yamori releases a concentrated wave of restorative spiritual energy. The assassin watches in stunned silence as his wounds vanish instantly, completely healed. Yamori makes his offer clear. Reveal who hired him and he'll personally save his child's life. Then, with a chilling gaze that promises consequences, he makes his final offer. Funaki admits quietly that he knew from the start Yamori was no ordinary target, and so he gives up the name without hesitation. Akimasa Hashimoto. Elsewhere, the man himself is lounging in his lavish headquarters like royalty, phone pressed to his ear. He casually offers his guest a choice between food or expensive drinks. But his guest is clearly a captive woman, bound and terrified. He scolds her for her supposed lack of manners with a sickeningly condescending tone. With a smug grin spreading across his face, he decides to continue his twisted game. He silences her muffled protest with a cruel, condescending smile, then threatens to teach her proper manners using a pair of rusty pliers. Her muffled screams echo through the lavishly decorated room. A brutal display of his complete absence of basic humanity, but his entertainment gets interrupted by a subordinate with urgent news about Yamori. Hashimoto waves it off casually, confident his professional thugs have already handled it, but a flicker of genuine doubt crosses his mind. This path might actually lead to his own demise. Back in the cell, Funaki offers something valuable in exchange for the healing talisman. He hands over what looks like a simple silver cross necklace, but Yamori recognizes it immediately as a container holding concentrated spiritual essence. He explains that this essence will make his Silverheart grass finally bear fruit. Yamori pockets the key to unlocking his next cultivation stage. Funaki warns him seriously that Hashimoto will now be actively hunting him down, man whose targets never ever meet peaceful ends. But Yamori simply tells him not to waste energy worrying about it. He leaves the assassin with a dark promise meant for their shared enemy. Meanwhile, over at Nimi University, a new player just arrived on the scene. An elegant, well-dressed woman steps out of her luxury vehicle. She just learned that the mysterious talisman vendor is actually the disowned Yamori heir. She decides to visit the university president directly to request his class schedule. But elsewhere in the building, the dean of the university is absolutely panicking. He's refusing to help Yamori because of his supposed connections to organized crime. Chizuru steps through the door, catching everyone completely by surprise. He overhears his name being mentioned, asking if they're discussing Yamori. Meanwhile, back at the police station, Officer Kyo slams his fist down in absolute fury. He confronts Chief Onaga directly about releasing the Scar Gang without any charges. He calls out his superior for blatant abuse of power right to his face, but the chief just smirks back, casually demanding proof for such serious accusations. Kyo slams both hands on the desk, accusing the chief of orchestrating this entire operation, but Onaga simply dares him to prove it, eyes filled with absolute contempt. Their heated confrontation gets interrupted by chaos erupting at the door. Yamori's classmate storms in with Chizuru, demanding his immediate release. The chief glares at his officers, furious they let civilians into his office. He scoffs, confidently. A disowned nobody couldn't possibly have powerful connections. He calmly explains that Yamori is a suspect under investigation and cannot be released. Kyo explodes, shouting that the charges are completely fabricated nonsense. But the chief stonewalls him hard, hiding behind claims of classified internal information. His classmate fires back viciously, calling out the corruption of freeing actual criminals while holding an innocent student. The chief threatens to arrest every single one of them for obstruction of justice. Chizuru stares him down, daring him to even try it. Enraged by her defiance, Onaga orders his men to throw them all into holding cells. He declares them accomplices to Yamori's crimes and suspends Kyo effective immediately. Kyo shouts back at the blatant abuse of authority happening right in front of everyone. But Chizuru reminds him calmly that his own superior won't be happy about this. Onaga just laughs, twisting her words into another fabricated charge. She fires back coldly, hinting she knows all about his dirty secrets. The chief grumbles, clearly annoyed by this unexpected complication. But Chizuru asks calmly if money can make this problem disappear too. He scoffs, explaining that powerful people always win in the end, then casually threatens to make them all vanish permanently. While his classmate panics visibly, Chizuru's resolve only hardens into steel. She speaks directly into her phone with a confident, knowing smile. A commanding voice on the other end confirms he heard every single word. Onaga's face drains of all color as he recognizes that voice instantly. The voice announces Onaga's immediate suspension and that he's personally on his way. The chief stammers pathetically, his authority crumbling in mere seconds. Zuru calmly introduces herself as the daughter of the Shuga family. Just like that, Onaga realizes he picked a fight way above his weight class. Yamori examines the silver cross carefully, a parting gift from his former opponent. He knows its concentrated spiritual essence is a one-time use key to his next breakthrough, but his thoughts get interrupted as he senses someone approaching his location. The sound of confident footsteps echoes down the empty corridor. He looks up to see exactly who's come to visit him in this cell. It's Shizuru, and she brought his concerned classmate along with her. Elsewhere across the city, Akimasa Hashimoto is throwing a spectacular tantrum. He's absolutely fuming over the complete incompetence of his hired professionals. Failure to the Amatani family will have severe, life-ending consequences. His trembling subordinate asks carefully for his next command. He orders them to send their absolute best operative to handle this personally. He's vowing to take care of this Yamori problem himself if necessary. Back at his modest apartment, Yamori reflects on his pathetically empty wallet, but he's got all the ingredients he needs for the critical next step. Time to begin the spiritual refinement process. He consumes the refined gathering pill in one swallow. Thanks to that high-grade essence from Funaki, the results are incredible. Just like that, he's successfully reached the second stage of cultivation. He tests out an old technique, the cloud shadow step. His dog looked completely bewildered. At this speed, he's confident not even bullets could touch him anymore. But with the spiritual essence completely consumed, he needs a new power source. A spiritual spring would be perfect, but his bank account laughs at that idea. He can't even afford basic entry fees for his next destination. But a flashy commercial on TV suddenly gives him a brilliant spark of inspiration. Popular beauty product is selling out despite its surprisingly affordable price point. He realizes immediately he can create his own superior version of that product, and an upcoming high society party is the perfect place to launch it. We flash back 5 hours to his private meeting with Shizuru. He finally understands the true extent of her family's influence and wealth. She explains that she called him here to ask for a personal favor. Yamori listens intently, wondering what someone this powerful could possibly need from him. She asks if he's familiar with the famous Shugao building downtown, then casually reveals that she owns it and is hosting a party there tonight. She wants him to attend as her personal guest of honor. The stage is set for his grand debut into the world of high society. At the Shugao building's rooftop party, Yamori's got a solid plan ready. He can't craft spiritual elixirs yet, but beauty preservation pills are totally doable. A simple but effective product he mastered in his old world, calculates that selling just a handful could completely solve his money problems. This party full of wealthy elites is the perfect opportunity to make his pitch. But elsewhere in the venue, Shizuru's getting verbally assaulted by her aunt and uncle. They warn her not to end up pathetic like Masami over there. Her uncle sneers that this is the price for youthful selfishness. Masami stands there silently, unable to defend herself from the cruel verbal assault. But Shizuru furiously jumps to her defense, reminding them of her countless sacrifices. The uncle suggests it's time to marry Shizuru off for the family's benefit. Her mother's health is still fragile as Shizuru tends to her needs. He even calls Masami defective goods for staying unmarried. But a family friend insists that Shizuru has her own life plans to pursue. He dismisses her autonomy as nothing but selfish childishness. Then he mocks the entire cosmetics industry with a condescending sneer. The entire gathered family can only watch his disgusting display in uncomfortable silence. But a new voice cuts through the tension, calling out his blatant disrespect. Yamori's eyes glow with power, declaring the man's words beyond inappropriate. The uncle sputters indignantly, demanding to know who this random stranger is. He frantically calls for security guards to physically throw him out. But Shizuru steps in quickly, introducing Yamori as the man who miraculously saved her mother's life. Her mother offers heartfelt thanks for the talisman that brought her back, but Yamori humbly insists no thanks are necessary at all. The uncle scoffs loudly, crediting modern medicine instead of superstitious charms. Yamori introduces himself professionally as a researcher and business partner. Shizuru looks surprised by this sudden promotion in their relationship. The uncle dismisses him, recalling their earlier debate about cosmetics. Yamori offers to demonstrate the answer firsthand right here, right now. The Aunt Masami watches with newfound interest sparking in her eyes. He turns to the woman who was just being verbally torn apart, asking politely for a volunteer. He offers her a small, ornate box with a confident, knowing smile. She can only stare back, completely taken aback by his unexpected request. Inside sits a single, glowing beauty preservation pill, radiating faint light. The uncle immediately accuses him of attempting to poison her in public. The woman hesitates, understandably, worried about swallowing mystery pills. But Shizuru steps in, offering to take it herself instead. Her mother agrees immediately, placing complete faith in him, but the rest of the crowd scoffs at his impossible claims. But Yamori leans in close, appealing to the memory of her younger self. A flood of painful memories and cruel insults flashes through her mind vividly. Without a second thought, she swallows the pill whole. The uncle and aunt watch in stunned silence, waiting for disaster. For a long moment, nothing happens, and the crowd begins murmuring skeptically. The uncle gloats loudly, declaring Yamori a complete fraud and his product worthless. But but then a brilliant golden light begins radiating from her entire body. In a single flash, her appearance is miraculously transformed before everyone's eyes. She stares at her reflection in shock, seeing the face of her youth staring back. The uncle and his wife can only gape, their arrogant confidence completely shattered. The crowd's skepticism transforms instantly into desperate, greedy desire. A chaotic bidding war erupts as wealthy guests clamor frantically for a taste of youth. But the uncle sees past the product itself, his mind racing toward a bigger prize. He realizes the real value lies in controlling the entire supply chain. He silences his wife's concerns coldly, his naked ambition overriding all caution. His twisted plan involves marrying off his own niece purely for financial gain. A representative from the Kozan group makes a bold offer for exclusive distribution rights, but the Hayashi group immediately counters with a staggering 20 million bid. A voice of reason tries calming the frenzy, reminding them of basic social etiquette. A new bidder steps forward confidently, inviting Yamori to a private business discussion. He offers 30 million upfront plus a generous 70% cut of all profits. Yamori clarifies the terms carefully, genuinely surprised by such a generous profit split, but the man clarifies coldly, 70% for them, 30% for him. That's the real split. A new voice cuts through the room, questioning what network he even has left to offer. The uncle snaps at Shizuru, reminding her they share blood, but she fires back hard, asking if he thought about family when he gambled away 160 million. The man stammers pathetically, his face draining to pure white with shock and terror. She offers to read the bank's threatening demand letters out loud for everyone to hear. Her mother and aunt stare in horror at this devastating revelation. The uncle's face goes ghostly pale as he demands to know how she discovered his secret. Shizuru reveals his true motive was squeezing more money from her vulnerable mother. She declares with ice-cold finality that he won't see another single cent. With his scheme exposed publicly, the man collapses to the floor in complete shame. He desperately denies everything, his voice cracking with pure fear. He turns to his sister, who can only express crushing disappointment in him. He clings desperately to her dress, begging for the protection she's always given, but she reminds him coldly that stealing their mother's inheritance crosses an unforgivable line. With a swift kick, she tells him to clean up this disaster himself. He stares in disbelief as his own family turns their backs on him. Chizuru offers her uncle a brutal choice: either face complete ruin, or sell his entire company for a single yen right now. The other guests smirk openly at his well-deserved downfall. With the family drama handled, she turns her attention back to Yamori. She offers to introduce him to the business experts gathered here, but Yamori warns her to choose partners carefully in this den of sharks. Shizuru nods, placing her complete trust in his judgment. He admits honestly that his lavish new place is just a rental. As the night winds down, he thanks her sincerely for the ride home. She offers him something unfamiliar: genuine friendship. The concept catches him off guard, but Shizuru insists warmly with a brilliant, disarming smile. Yamori turns to leave, his mind still processing this unexpected alliance. For a brief moment, he thinks maybe this new life isn't completely terrible after all. He arrives back at his apartment expecting a quiet, peaceful night. In an instant, his calm completely shatters into pure, unadulterated rage. A spy reports Yamori's return immediately to his master, Hashimoto. Their plan is brutally simple: make him taste true despair firsthand, a twisted gift specifically designed to shatter his spirit completely. He lunges forward, rage consuming every rational thought. But he catches a flicker of life and realizes there's still a chance to save it. As he focuses his healing energy, an assassin waits silently in the shadows above. The killer drops down, aiming directly for a fatal strike, but the blade never reaches its target. Yamori caught the entire attack with his bare hand, his companion safe beneath him. The other thugs stare in complete, stunned silence at what just happened. He gently sets the puppy down, telling it softly to find cover immediately. With the first attacker handled, he realizes more company is hiding nearby. His spiritual aura explodes outward as he invites them all to try their luck. Their leader barks orders to attack but keep the target alive for questioning. A thug charges forward recklessly, swinging his blade in a wide, deadly arc. But Yamori meets the attack with a cold, completely unwavering stare. He smashes the first attacker straight into the ground with one brutal motion. The others freeze completely, their confidence just evaporated. Yamori rises slowly, his aura flaring brighter as he marks his first victim. Enraged by the display, another thug rushes forward with a metal pipe, but Yamori dodges the clumsy swing without even glancing at it. He stops the man's attacking arm with a single precise strike, then grabs him by the throat, instantly silencing his panicked cry. He lifts the assassin completely off his feet with impossible raw strength, and calmly announces that's the second one eliminated. The leader changes tactics immediately, ordering his men to use their guns now. Yamori declares he'll take on every single last one of them, until somebody finally starts talking about who sent them. Hashimoto gloats over his new captive, who's far from some random girl. In fact, she's a woman admired and respected by the entire city. It's Shizuru, now a helpless hostage in his twisted revenge game. But his entertainment gets interrupted by an incoming call. He answers, demanding a status report on their target. but the voice coming through is one he never expected to hear. Yamori calmly compliments the man on his impressive audacity. Hashimoto reveals his trump card with glee. Shizuru makes perfect bait. Yamori demands they leave the innocent woman out of this personal matter, but Hashimoto only laughs mockingly at his pathetic plea. He gives Yamori a brutal 40-minute ultimatum with a horrifying promise attached. Then he hangs up abruptly, daring him to find them in time. The line goes dead, leaving Yamori standing in silent, focused rage. He crushes the phone in his bare hand, vowing to hunt Hashimoto down personally. The villain meanwhile prepares to film his twisted hostage message. Shizuru struggles helplessly, a pawn in his cruel game, but his twisted entertainment gets suddenly interrupted. His men burst through the door with an urgent panicked report. Fire suppression system throughout the warehouse just activated randomly. Furious at the interruption, he orders them to guard this room while he investigates personally. In the hallway outside, a guard encounters an unseen hostile presence. Before getting sent flying backward through the very door he was protecting, he crashes in a heap, leaving the entire room in stunned silence. Shizuru looks up hopefully, realizing Yamori has somehow arrived already. We flash back 1 hour to a delivery man on a motorcycle checking an address. He confirms the location carefully, making sure he's at the right place. The hitman Funaki receives a report that Yamori just arrived home. A subordinate assures Hashimoto confidently that 6 elite assassins are en route, and they've also captured Shizuru as extra insurance against failure. Funaki's furious, questioning Hashimoto's reckless escalation of violence. The car carrying Shizuru speeds off into the dark night, but Funaki has a plan forming, vowing to track them down somehow. He gives chase alone, one rider against an entire powerful organization. The car arrives at a secluded mansion compound, destination finally reached. Funaki calls Yamori immediately, confirming that Hashimoto has taken Shizuru hostage, but Yamori already knows the exact address, much to Funaki's genuine surprise. Funaki asks how he possibly knew, and the answer lies at Yamori's feet. The hitman asks desperately for help rescuing Shizuru from danger, while Yamori promises coldly to personally drag Hashimoto straight to hell. Hashimoto's absolutely furious about the warehouse alarm disrupting his plans. Funaki watches from the shadows as the villain leaves to investigate personally. The remaining guards complain bitterly about their dangerous job, but their grumbling gets cut short by an unexpected sound. Funaki steps out from the darkness, his spiritual aura flaring to life. He gives them one simple warning to stay quiet for a bit. With a single devastating punch, the first guard drops unconscious. Funaki stands over the crumpled man. His rescue mission is crystal clear. He finds Shizuru bound, reminding her that Yamori owes him this favor. He lifts her carefully from the table, preparing to make their escape. They hurry down the opulent hallway before anyone returns from investigating. He explains quickly their escape route leads through the courtyard gate. Their escape gets violently cut short by a sudden fiery impact. He stumbles forward hard, the force of the blow sending them both down. They collapse to the ground in a tangled heap. The rescue mission just failed. Hashimoto appears from the smoke, gloating over his perfectly aimed shot. Hashimoto's confusion is obvious. Why did his hitman return so quickly? He mocks Funaki viciously for having the audacity to show his face again. Funaki struggles back to his feet, desperately trying to shield Shizuru. The villain erupts in unhinged laughter, seeing this as a gathering of complete fools. He's savoring the thought of punishing them all personally, but Funaki isn't here to entertain him. The hitman's spiritual aura explodes outward as he issues a direct challenge. The guards stationed at the mansion gate call out to a shadowy approaching figure. It's Yamori, and his rage is radiating off him in visible waves. A guard foolishly tries stopping him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Yamori's fist connects with a sickening, bone-crushing impact. The first guard goes flying backward straight through the iron gate. The others freeze completely, realizing they just made a fatal mistake. But Yamori moves like a crimson whirlwind of pure destructive energy. He leaves nothing but a trail of broken, unconscious bodies behind him. His eyes burn with a simple, chilling promise of what's coming next. Meanwhile, inside the compound, Funaki's taking a brutal beating. He's completely surrounded by Hashimoto's armed men, hopelessly outnumbered. He collapses hard, regretting ever getting involved in this nightmare. Hashimoto taunts him with a sickening threat against his family, and relishes that thought with a truly unhinged, maniacal laugh. Those words hit Funaki harder than any physical blow ever could, but the villain's twisted monologue gets cut short by sudden noise. Yamori announces coldly that he's the one sending people to hell tonight. Funaki looks up weakly, commenting on his rather dramatic entrance timing. Yamori tosses him a healing talisman, familiar green light already glowing. The experienced hitman knows exactly what to do with it. Enraged by the interruption, Hashimoto orders his men to open fire immediately. A deadly hail of bullets erupts from every direction at once. But Yamori moves in a blur, his cloud shadow step rendering him untouchable. He closes the distance instantly, taking out the first gunman with ease. Hashimoto stares in disbelief, unable to comprehend that impossible speed. Yamori weaves through the gunfire like a phantom bent on vengeance. The villain realizes with dawning horror this fight is already lost. He makes a desperate break for it, screaming at his men to run. He's convinced this kid must be from some elite martial family. He reaches a secure, reinforced door, desperately trying to get inside, but his escape gets thwarted by a forgotten security password. He screams in pure, unadulterated rage and panic. The villain tries reasoning desperately, reminding him of his powerful connections. He finally screams the name of the man who hired him, Lord Aima, but Yamori's never heard that name before in his life. He promises coldly to make sure Hashimoto suffers for his ignorance. The villain spills everything frantically, explaining his connection to the Amitani family. The name Amitani triggers buried memories and puzzle pieces start connecting. Hashimoto desperately tries bargaining for his pathetic life. Yamori realizes this Aima person must be a cultivator too. Hashimoto desperately offers his services, promising to become a valuable loyal asset, but Yamori only repeats his words back with ice-cold contempt. The villain thinks he's finally getting through, confidence returning to his voice. But the answer comes in the form of a devastating, brutal punch. He drives his fist into the man's face with bone-shattering force. The villain goes flying backward, splashing into a nearby pool of water. His fall reveals other captives chained in the darkness below. Yamori looks down at the scene of absolute depravity spread before him. He decides to let Hashimoto's own victims determine his final fate. With a swift motion, he grabs a nearby discarded blade and shatters every chain binding the captives with precise strikes. He tells them calmly their tormentor is now theirs to judge. Hashimoto panics completely, offering money and power for mercy. But one of his victims picks up the blade, her decision already made. Her eyes burn with years of vengeance, promising him a personal trip to hell. With justice served, Yamori turns to tend Shizuru's injuries carefully. Funaki warns him to leave now as police sirens approach, but Yamori promises to return after ensuring Shizuru reaches safety. Funaki asks what he plans doing with this dangerous new information. Yamori's plan is brutally simple. Learn everything about the Amitani family and then systematically destroy them from the ground up. Back at his modest apartment, he tries finding a moment of peace. His companion suddenly senses a disturbance at the front door. Yamori wonders who could possibly be visiting at this late hour. He opens the door to find a well-dressed man in a suit waiting. The man announces he has a delivery from President Shuga herself. He's told to get ready to depart immediately, leaving him completely confused. He calls Shizuru, questioning the sudden invitation and the expensive suit. She explains it's for a formal party hosted by the prestigious Hoshikawas. He's surprised to be invited to such an exclusive, high-profile event. She explains it's a perfect chance to market his pills, and his ex-fiancée will be there. The news about his former fiancée catches him completely off guard, a buried memory he'd rather have left in the past. Amitani Yuki, daughter of the very family who disowned him. The party's already in full swing, a glittering sea of influential faces. Shizuru points out the giants of Nimi City's business world casually. Yamori takes it all in, realizing everyone here wants a piece of Hoshikawa influence. Shizuru reminds him of the immense power these families wield collectively, explaining even a distant connection provides huge advantages, and tonight the Amitani heiress herself will attend. Just then, the grand entrance doors swing open dramatically, drawing everyone's attention. The head of the Hoshikawa family has arrived, with Amitani Yuki beside her, but Yamori feels familiar spiritual energy radiating strongly from her. He realizes this is the supposed fiancée of his former self, Amitani Yuki, heiress of her family, and Hoshikawa Nana, head of hers. He wonders if this world has developed its own crude cultivation form after all. Her aura is so strong she isn't even bothering to hide it. He decides she's his best lead for information on this mysterious Aima. Shizuru approaches with Yamori, offering a warm, respectful greeting. The group exchanges pleasantries, asking about her mother's recovery progress. Shizuru confirms that her mother is slowly but steadily getting better. She presents a gift: the new and improved beauty preservation pills. Hoshikawa Nana's eyes light up instantly, recognizing the rumored legendary product. The other guests stare in stunned silence, knowing the pills are priceless and unreleased. Even Amitani Yuki looks on, her interest clearly piqued despite herself. Nana examines the pill carefully, marveling at its incredible crafted quality. She wonders aloud who could have crafted such a perfect elixir. Shizuru introduces Yamori as the brilliant business partner who refined the pill. The name sends a visible shockwave of recognition through both powerful women. Hoshikawa Nana remembers him as a child, stunned by his incredible developed skill. She declares that the Yamori family had absolutely no idea what they threw away. But Amitani Yuki dismisses his talent coldly, claiming noble families only value cultivation. She scoffs that if craftsmanship actually mattered, he'd already be an elder. Yamori realizes these families possess their own crude cultivation methods. Nana agrees his talent means little to them, but asks who taught him. She assumes his master must be an extraordinary legendary person. The word master seems to strike a deep nerve with Yamori. Amitani Yuki turns away dismissively, her disdain crystal clear. Yamori claims he's completely self-taught. Just a simple hobby really, but their conversation gets cut short. A new guest arrives, wishing Nana a happy birthday with practiced charm. The man in white strolls confidently into the party, instantly drawing everyone's attention. The crowd whispers his name in hushed, reverent tones. "I'm a Joe, heir to the powerful I'm a family." Nana greets him warmly, confirming his identity with a smile. And just like that, Yamori's primary target has walked straight up to him. Ama Joe jokes casually about his close relationship with both influential families. His calculating gaze then falls on the unfamiliar woman in their group. Nana proudly introduces Shizuru, daughter of the prestigious Shuga family. Ima Joe acknowledges Shizuru politely, his eyes sizing her up carefully. He introduces himself with a practiced, charming smile while offering his hand. But his handshake is a power play, a crushing grip designed to intimidate. He then turns to Yamori, feigning ignorance as he asks for his name. Yamori sees right through the transparent act, deciding to play along for now. He introduces himself simply, but this is far more than a greeting. He channels a sliver of his own spiritual power into their handshake, a subtle probe designed to test his opponent's spiritual defenses. But the results are absolutely shocking. There's no spiritual energy at all. Ima Joe stumbles backward, clutching his arm like he's been violently attacked. Ima Joe regains his composure quickly with a practiced smile. He changes the subject fast, turning his attention to Yuki instead. But Yamori's mind is racing frantically, trying to understand what just happened. He can't sense any power from Ima whatsoever, questioning if he's just ordinary. Ima meanwhile notes internally that Yamori showed absolutely no killing intent. An announcer invites everyone to the grand main hall for the dance. The floor fills rapidly with couples, a sea of elegant gowns and sharp suits. But Yamori stands completely alone, realizing he's been deceived this entire time. He questions the true purpose behind Aima's elaborate deception. Shizuru watches him from across the crowded room, a thoughtful look crossing her face. A hopeful suitor approaches her nervously, asking for the honor of a dance, but she politely turns him down without a second thought. His friend scolds him for his audacity, reminding him of her family's power. It seems she's rejected every single man who approached tonight, but his friend suddenly cuts him off mid-sentence, pointing to something unbelievable. The man can only stare in shock, his jaw practically hitting the floor. Even the other guests turn their heads, their curiosity completely piqued, because a confident voice has just called out Yamori's name clearly. It's Shizuru, asking Yamori directly for the honor of a dance. The rejected suitors stare in disbelief, their minds completely blown. But elsewhere in the venue, Ima Joe is making his exit. His men bow respectfully as he prepares to leave the party early. He walks confidently toward his awaiting limousine, his business here apparently done, but not before leaving one final chilling order for his men, an order they acknowledge quickly and nervously. With that command, the Ima heir's car speeds off into the night, leaving the other guests to wonder what just transpired. His men discuss the strange fate of Ima's personal guards quietly. They're replaced frequently with the previous ones simply vanishing without explanation. Inside the limo, Ima Joe's pleasant facade has completely vanished. He punishes his subordinate violently for the earlier handshake with Shizuru. The man can only stammer out a terrified, desperate apology. But Ima Joe's true power begins crackling to life around him. He explains coldly that he only spared the man for his potential usefulness. But if he can't even handle this one simple task, then he shouldn't expect to meet any kind of peaceful end. His remaining men bow deeply as he steps out of the car. He orders 2 of them to follow him directly to the hall, but the remaining guards notice something deeply disturbing. Inside the car, the real Ima Joe is bound and gagged. His eyes burn with a mixture of pure terror and humiliation. Back at the party, the music plays on, completely oblivious to the deception. The imposter makes his polite excuses to Yuki, claiming he has to leave. She watches confused, puzzled by his sudden, unexpected departure. And just like that, the mysterious man in white has vanished. Meanwhile, the crowd is buzzing excitedly about Shizuru and her mysterious dance partner. Shizuru is completely swept up in the magical moment. Yamori, on the other hand, seems slightly out of his element, but his body moves naturally with the music, like a forgotten memory, and together they glide across the floor in perfect, graceful harmony. She compliments him genuinely, surprised by his hidden natural talent, and only offer a nervous, uncertain smile in return. He remembers her earlier advice to just blend in naturally. Luckily, this body's old lessons and his cultivation training saved him. Nana asks Yuki if she's surprised, but the heiress remains unimpressed. But Nana teases her knowingly, noting she couldn't take her eyes off him. The man in white compliments Yamori's surprisingly natural talent on the floor. Nana questions if he really doesn't know him, but the man plays dumb. She finds it odd that the Ima family couldn't dig up his background. The imposter gives a veiled warning not to cause trouble in her territory, but Nana is focused on Yamori's potential, vowing to help him. Our protagonist, meanwhile, enjoys a quiet drink, completely unaware of the new plots forming. Nana decides firmly that someone like him can't be ignored any longer. The imposter fumes internally, thinking he'd have silenced her if not for Yuki. His hateful, murderous gaze then turns directly to Yamori himself, and across the room the guests are starting to put a name to the face. The whispers finally connect the dots. He's Amitani Yuki's ex-fiancé. The guests mock his fall from grace cruelly, assuming he's desperate. They're convinced he's just trying to claw his way back into high society, but their cruel gossip gets cut short by a sudden movement. Amitani Yuki announces coldly she's tired and ready to leave the party. Nana can only watch her go with a knowing, amused smile. Yamori, meanwhile, is completely oblivious to the unfolding social drama around him until Yuki turns and confronts him directly, telling him to drop his ambitions. She warns him not to use her to regain his family status. Our protagonist can only wonder what on earth she's talking about. She scoffs that his pill making is just a way to survive, not true power. She assumes he's accepted his place as a simple craftsman permanently, but he turns the tables smoothly, asking who she thinks he's talking about. Eris can only stare, completely confused by his cryptic words. He explains calmly that the spiritual energy she's flaunting is actually leaking out. Her aura flares violently in shock and rage as she demands to know how he knew. He continues explaining that her reckless cultivation methods are destroying her body from the inside. The two of them stand apart from the rest of the oblivious party guests, and with a confident smirk he offers to fix her little life-threatening problem. Yuki scoffs loudly, finding his claim completely absurd, but Yamori calmly replies that it's her life on the line, not his. He gives her a chilling warning that her time is rapidly running out. He then proposes a trade, a simple favor for her life. He needs her to deliver something directly to Imajo. The imposter across the room realizes his plan just got suddenly complicated. Later, as the party winds down, the guests spill out into the courtyard. Yamori makes his own quiet exit, accompanied by the woman from earlier, but a voice calls out firmly, stopping the two of them in their tracks. It's Hoshikawa Nana, who wants to ask a few questions about his pill. She walks with him and Masami through the estate's beautiful gardens. Nana cuts straight to the chase, guessing his talent is her real interest. But Yamori reminds her he's no longer part of any noble family. She notes his stubbornness reminds her strongly of Amitani Yuki. Nana explains that after her parents' death, Yuki was put on a tight leash by her uncle. She was granted the right to become a cultivator but can't escape her family's control. Masami is stunned, asking what it means to surpass human limits. Yamori knows the answer perfectly, reaching the third stage of cultivation, dangerous path that forces her to trade her own lifespan for power. Yamori asks directly why she's telling him all of this sensitive information. Nana explains that like Shizuru's mother, Yuki's condition has no medical cure, but she's still desperately searching for any way to save her. She admits her own skills are severely lacking, but his talent surpasses any alchemist she's ever encountered. Masami is stunned that she'd trust him over modern medicine completely. Banana reminds her that he can also craft those powerful talismans. The pieces start clicking for Masami, connecting him to the legendary cultivator rumors. Yamori meanwhile knows this world's cultivation methods are laughably primitive. Nana then pivots back to business, offering a partnership on behalf of her family. She promises that with their network his profits will skyrocket exponentially. She begs him to one day use his skills to save Yuki. She explains that the broken engagement left the girl emotionally devastated, but their serious conversation gets suddenly interrupted. The Ima imposter approaches casually, saying he's about to leave. He notes her company with feigned polite interest in the group. He then turns to Yamori with a practiced, charming smile, offering a handshake and expressing hope for their next meeting. Yamori accepts smoothly, his own smile hiding a much deeper meaning, and once again, their handshake is a silent battle of wills. Yamori's eyes narrow slightly, sensing something is seriously off. The imposter meanwhile can feel the spiritual energy radiating from Nana, but a subordinate stops him suddenly with a gift from Amitani Yuki. The imposter seems genuinely surprised by the unexpected present. Inside he finds a simple origami butterfly, wondering at its meaning. He quickly hands it off, ordering his man not to open it. He blames his incompetent underlings for forcing his hand. His ring begins glowing ominously as he plots his next move against his new targets, and with a sinister grin he promises to show them his true power. He vows to turn Yuki into a weapon against them both. His subordinate nervously holds the mysterious box from the Amitani heiress. Elsewhere, high above the city streets, Yamori reflects quietly on the evening's complicated events. He holds a glowing butterfly of his own, a message for his new rival.